think a lot of people expect that an alcohol and drug counselor would have these real strong opinions about legalizing or criminalizing marijuana. And that's not really the big issue. One of the problems that I have, though, with the legalization debate is how we're doing it. We talk about legalizing it, and then in a state like Colorado, it seems like it's only after that that people start asking questions like, well, marijuana is a fat-soluble drug. If you smoke it at 4:20 on a Friday afternoon, you're going to be testing positive for that at 6:20 in the evening when you go through the drive-through lane, or 8:20 or 9:20 in the evening when you want to go to the club or whatever. You've still got THC floating around your bloodstream, and so you're still going to be testing positive for it, and we don't have any conclusive evidence that it doesn't affect your driving ability. And I'm assuming that if we're still interested in highway safety, and if we're interested in maintaining the progress that we've made over the last 20-25 years in reducing road fatalities, then I'm assuming that we want to keep things safe, and that we're not going to go ahead and just assume that a certain THC level is safe enough to drive on. At least not until we have a lot more research than what we've got. So it seems like only after the fact are people begin to think, gee, what should we do about people smoking and driving? That's a problem. There's also the problem regarding potency and dosage. When people keep wanting to compare marijuana to alcohol, one of the big things that they seem to skip over is that when it comes to alcohol, we've had centuries of understanding and accepting the difference between fermented and distilled alcohol. Anybody who drinks a beer has some idea what a 12-ounce can of American beer is going to do, for good or for bad. And we also understand that if a person drank half that much hard alcohol, they're going to be feeling it a lot different. How many proof the potency of scotch or vodka or brandy or tequila or whatever will certainly vary from one brand to the next and from one type of alcohol to the next, but fundamentally those things haven't changed again in centuries. The problem then with marijuana is that we don't really have any standard dosage. Any dealer who's been doing it for any period of time will tell you that sometimes dosage levels will change a little bit depending on what kind of supply they've got, what kind of customer they're dealing with, how much the customer is willing to pay, and so on. And so what goes into an average joint or an average blunt or an average pipe varies, and sometimes varies a lot. So we don't even have a common reference point when it comes to what a dosage level is. But what we do know is certainly that purity and potency levels apparently have gone up over the years when it comes to marijuana. And it's just logical to assume that for most people, if you go to a store and say, hey, you can have average, medium power, medium potency marijuana, or you can have the real strong, potent, powerful stuff that people, at least some people, are going to want the more potent stuff. But we really don't know how that affects somebody. We don't know whether it's okay, whether it's partially safe, mostly safe, not safe at all. And Colorado is going with their legal weed being at a certain potency level, at so many certain level of tetrahydrocannabinol, which is okay, but with the understanding that it's just inevitable that somebody's going to want more. Somebody's going to want something more potent. So, how are we going to handle that? Are we going to ultimately have real powerful weed mandated from the state government to satisfy this demand? Or are we going to make that person get their pure, more potent marijuana from someplace else illegally? How are we going to handle that? What are we going to do? It's a question that seems to be pretty obvious to ask, but it doesn't really seem like anybody's asked it yet. And that's just one of the things we're going to have to deal with.